Good morning and welcome to Peace Out, where we are all figuring this out together, right? How to peace out. Learning how to just take life as it comes and peace out. Why? Because He already gave us His peace. We don't even have to worry about it, right? We don't have to be too concerned because we know He already gave it to us. The catch is figuring out how to really just relax in that peace. And boy, have I had a lot of practice lately, just having to go back to His peace, right? All right, before I get too far into it, this week's book of the week is Making of a Leader. I just sent an order for 300 more copies in Urdu in Pakistan. So that will make 1,800 copies altogether of just this book in Pakistan. Pretty cool. Anyway, you can get it on Amazon. I'm going to be changing my website. You can still get it on my website today as an ebook, but I believe next week I'll be changing the website up a little bit. It'll still be there. It'll just be a lot different, and the ebook won't be available there. So anyway, making some changes moving forward. I am starting a newsletter for Desert Ministries, so you can keep up with all that's going on in Pakistan, and actually now reaching maybe into India a little bit, which is interesting because the person we're talking about in the Bible today actually went to India. We think. We're not sure. We weren't there. We don't know. Anyway, so if you want to sign up for that newsletter, send me a private message with your email and I'll add you to the list. I've got 5 or 6 on the list so far, and I'm going to be building that out. I should be sending the first one out on the first week of June, and then it'll be monthly, just to let you know what's going on with books and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so let's go on to more important things, right? So after talking about Thomas yesterday, I decided that I just really wanted to study a little bit about him. We don't know as much about Thomas. He wasn't Peter, right? And that's a good thing because we aren't either, right? And yet he had some similarities to Peter in the sense that he just said what he thought, right? And we kind of look over Thomas. We call him Doubting Thomas. We know that he was a twin because it kept saying that he was Didymus. He was Thomas the twin, so he must have had a twin somewhere along the way. I think he was a carpenter from what I read this morning. May have been a carpenter as far as his trade. There wasn't a big dynamic call for Thomas. He was just listed as in. Here's the 12 that Jesus went and got to follow him, right? But the thing was, Jesus went and got him, right? And we look at Thomas, it's easy to condemn him and go, boy, Doubting Thomas, he just never quite got it. But, Thomas had some good qualities too, and that's how we are. It's not any different than us. We have some things that we do really well, and we have some dumb things that we do too, right? Maybe I should just speak for myself there. But in John 11, Lazarus has died, and Jesus is telling the disciples, he says, Lazarus is dead, and I'm glad I wasn't there because we're going to go give you an opportunity to believe in me. Let's go see him. And Thomas says this. He doesn't quite ever seem to know what's going on, right? And verse 16 of John 11, it says, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let's go too and die with Jesus. And it doesn't even make sense quite in the context, but somehow they were like, Jesus is like, he's dead, let's go to him. And Thomas is like, well, if you're going to die, I'm going to die too, because we're going to go die with you. And, it seems like Thomas just didn't quite get what was going on. We said yesterday, he told Jesus, no, I don't get what you're saying. I don't get it. And that's okay. That was so cool that he was honest with Jesus about how he felt and what he was thinking and not able to process, right? And so here he's going, well, let's just all go die with Jesus. And even though he missed the concept that Jesus was talking about, he was dedicated to the point of death to go with Jesus. If you're going to go die, I'm going to go die. Now, that's not what Jesus was talking about here, but that's okay. I still have to admire that tenacity and that dedication of Thomas in this moment, because in his mind, he thought Jesus meant we're all going to go die. And Lazarus is dead and we're going to go be with him. And Thomas is like, okay, well, let's just go. Let's all go die. So he was so dedicated to Jesus that if Jesus said we're going to go be with Lazarus and Lazarus is dead, well, I'm going too. I'm going with you. If it means death, I'm going with you. That's a pretty cool thing. That's a pretty deep level of commitment, because Thomas could have very easily said, you go be with Lazarus, I'll stay here and spread this gospel message, right? Or something like that. And so we got to admire that dedication, even though we've labeled him as Doubting Thomas. We've called him Doubting Thomas all these years, and it's kind of like Rahab the harlot. We never talk about just Rahab. It's always Rahab the harlot. She always carried that with her. And Thomas never could get away from that doubting Thomas. And that's out of John 20. So we've got 3 references to Thomas here in John, and they're just kind of varied, right? So Jesus did die, and Thomas did not. and not physically. You know, the disciples all went through a death in a sense in their emotions. They believed Jesus was the Messiah, and then they watched him die on the cross. Peter even mentions that later. And Peter, he says, we saw, or maybe it's in the Sermon in Acts, but he said, we saw him die. We saw his blood run from his body. And yet we're still pursuing him. And yet we also saw him rise from the dead, right? So it's just amazing the things that they saw. So Thomas saw all that. He saw Jesus die. They had that death of a vision that is talked about sometimes. They thought Jesus was going to set up a kingdom, and it just never quite came to. And, every once in a while they would ask him, is this when you set up the kingdom? They were looking for a natural kingdom. They thought he was going to dethrone the rulers of their day and just take over the kingdom, but they never could quite get that it was a spiritual kingdom until they realized the fall of what their concepts were. So they went through grief. There was grief is something we don't talk about as believers, especially as faithers. We don't talk about grief because that means you're doubting. No, it doesn't. It means something hurt, right? It means something is messed up in your life, and grief is a process we have to work through when it comes to loss and things like that. But anyway, here's Thomas. He's working through it. He's trying, and they tell him, well, Jesus rose from the dead. Didn't you hear that yet? Because they were all in hiding because they thought they might be next. All of a sudden, Thomas disappeared when it really came down to it, right? That's okay. That's just like me. I'm committed until it hurts. I'm committed until it's difficult. I'm committed until, right? And so here they are. They're going, Jesus is here, but Thomas wasn't with them. John 20:24. One of the disciples, Thomas, just one, it says, one of the disciples, Thomas, also called the twin, was not with the others when Jesus came. They told him, we've seen the Lord. Thomas replied, I won't believe it until I see the wounds in his hands, put my fingers into them, and place my hand in the wound of his side. So he's going, and so we've labeled him as doubting Thomas, but you know what? He is not, I'm not that far off from that. I am the biggest skeptic, one of the biggest skeptics, especially with new things. Right, and AI hasn't helped that at all. I'll just throw that out there, right? Because now you never know what's really real. Well, yeah, you probably will. Most of the time you can tell. Anyway, but Thomas is going, I'm not going to believe it till I see him, because I saw him die. I saw them take him away. I saw them take him up to Golgotha. I saw him die, right? I saw him die. And I'm not going to believe that he's alive until I see that he's alive. I had to watch him die, so I get to watch him live. And it was a faith process. Isn't faith a process? Faith isn't a button we push. We choose to believe in God. We choose to believe the Word of God. But sometimes there's that process, and life likes to dig at that. And Thomas was being dug at right here, right? And so he says, I won't believe till I see him. And then 8 days later, so a whole week later, a week and a day later, the disciples were gathered again, right? And this time, Thomas was with them. The doors were locked, but suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them. Okay, I believe. If he's just standing right here, can you imagine? I mean, the doors are locked. My doors are locked. Can you imagine Jesus just, boom, here he is in the room, right? That's enough for me. I've got it, right? And he said, peace be with you, which is really interesting to me, because that's the first thing he said 8 days ago when he appeared to them and the doors were locked. And he just said, hey, peace be with you. Peace out. Peace out. I am the Prince of Peace, and I'm leaving you my peace. Peace is always here. He says, peace out. Peace be with you. King James here. Then he said to Thomas, specifically, the 12 disciples are there. He appears. He says, peace out. Then he says, directly to Thomas. He wasn't there physically when Thomas told them, I won't believe until I touch the scars. I want to see the scars in his hands. I want to see the scars in his side. Then I'll believe. Jesus wasn't standing there physically when Thomas said that, and yet 8 days later, here comes Jesus. He walks into the room. He goes, y'all peace out. Thomas, come here. I got something I want to show you. He went right to Thomas. We give Thomas a bad rap for doubting, but like I said, we doubt too when it hurts or when it doesn't make sense, right? And Thomas evidently hadn't thought it all through yet, but Jesus comes directly to Thomas and meets him in that moment, in his doubts, in his fears that weren't mentioned, but I'm sure they were afraid too, because they were afraid they were going to be killed too. There stands all the disciples, but he goes right to Thomas. He goes, Thomas, come, look at my hand. He says, peace be with you. You guys peace out. Thomas, come here. Put your finger here. Put your finger here and see my hands. I like the way that's worded right there, because we're talking about the sense of touch, but he says, put your finger here and see. Put your finger here and see what I did. And that's a big key term to revelation, because Thomas was going to put his finger in that scar, but he was going to see with his spiritual eyes. He was going to have this understanding come into his heart, right? And he was going to know this is it. And all of it was going to come together. I'm adding to this, right? Because I'm imagining what it would be like in that moment to see the scar, touch it, and then it comes together in your heart, even if you don't have words, even if you can't see it with your natural eyes the way you want to. It's going to come together in your spirit, man. Isn't that what salvation is? It doesn't always make sense with our eyes, even though we can experience it. But when we see him as he is, 1 John says, we become like him. And so in that moment, that faith arose in Thomas. And so even though he had doubted, he says this. Jesus says, don't be faithless any longer. Believe. He said, there you go. It's a sealed deal. And Thomas is the first one now to say, my Lord and my God, to declare Jesus on this side of the cross, right? To declare that he was God, that he was raised. Thomas exclaims, my Lord and my God, right? And then he says this, and this is our scripture. You believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who haven't seen me and believe anyway. That's us, you guys. That's us. Jesus isn't going to appear. I mean, he might. I mean, he's God. He can do what he wants, but he may not appear in our physical house, but he will appear in our circumstances. He will appear and say, "Here's my peace." He brings his peace. He left his peace. He will appear in our world. He will appear and he will address those doubts. He meets us right where we are. Now, here's the interesting thing about Thomas. Thomas went on, we think, it's very unclear about where Thomas went. We know he died by the sword. Is about some more too later, but I want to do some more studying and some more digging. But we think he made it as far as India and began to preach the message in what we would call India today. Is that amazing how far Thomas reached? Thomas didn't give up on that, right? And yet we are blessed because we didn't see Jesus standing there. We don't see him physically, even though we have that witness in our spirit, right? And we can be like Thomas. We believe until it's hard. We believe until life gets hard. And then we think, well, God's not really doing anything. And it's hard because we can't see with our physical eyes like Thomas had the opportunity to do, right? And yet we are blessed because we continue to go, you know what? I'm still going to believe that God gave me his peace. I'm still going to believe that God saved me. I'm still going to believe everything he said in this Bible is mine. From the Rudy to the Tootie, from Genesis to Revelation, it's all still intact. And everything he told us he's going to bring to pass. Everything he told us still intact. We have his peace. We can ask for wisdom and he gives it. We can ask for direction and he will give it. We can follow him. We can believe that he loves us. We can believe that he interacts with us every day, right? Because here's to Thomas. Jesus met Thomas again, another time, right where he was, even in his doubt. Why? Because Thomas's heart was toward God. That's our task today, is to keep our heart toward God and just keep believing, keep trusting, and keep letting his peace reign, right? Peace out. Have a great day. I'll see you again tomorrow.